Hello everyone, good day and welcome to our presentation today in our purposive communication subject. But before anything else, please let me introduce myself. So my name is Jenna M. Sanokin and I am from Block CED-02-101A of BSE English, and I am the leader of this group, which is the Group 2. And today we will be discussing two topics. First, the levels of communication, and second is the principles of communication. But before that, to make everybody's mind active and alive, let us have an ice. So the title of our icebreaker is What Would You Do? So we only have simple instructions for this. You just need to answer what would you do if you were in a given situations. Okay, so let's start with situation number 1. So Riza, together with her 5 classmates, was assigned to write a research paper as a final requirement in one of their major subjects. However, one of her classmates, whose name is Mon, is Riza's most hated classmate. Hence, Kim, who is one of Riza's members, told Riza not to let Mon attend their meeting. So Riza was tempted to do so. If you were Riza, would you prefer to have a meeting or communication with your 3 members without allowing Mon to join? Why? Okay, so anybody can answer. Yes, Miss Dunganon.
I will speak up this matter with utmost sincerity. If I were in Risa's shoes, I'll conduct a meeting wherein Mon is included despite Kim's prompt of excluding him. One of the factors as to why I would do this is for the group's sake. Let's take into consideration that they're doing a research paper for their final requirement. If one of them is not that knowledgeable about their own research, it would jeopardize the group. I know that cooperating with someone you hate is infuriating, yet it's not fair if you throw them under the bus. So again, if I were Risa, I would treat Mon with civility since it's requisite despite my hatred for him. That's all.
Thank you, Miss Dunganon. Okay, so very good. The correct answer for this given situation is, of course, Riza needs and must to allow Mon to join their meeting. Why? Because the appropriate way to communicate in context of group activity is to communicate as a group, no matter how you feel with your other members. Okay, so let's proceed to situation number 2. So, Kendrick spent his long, tiring day attending his classes. When he arrived at home, he looked at his to-do list. However, Kendrick feels drained and unmotivated. He thinks he has no ability to achieve his goals in life. He feels alone, insecure, left out, burdened, and empty. He thinks he has no purpose and was tempted to drop some of his subjects. If you were Kendrick, to whom would you communicate first? Okay, yes, let's have Miss Abalos.
If I were Kendrick, I'll speak about this first with my teachers, specifically a counselor. I'll explain how I feel regarding the continuous pending workload and how unmotivated I am to finish each task because of feeling burnout, how things are going and the factors that affects my insecurities and contributed to me feeling left out. I think the counselor will have the best advice for me regarding this matter and can help me sort things out. Then I'll talk to my friends since I know that they can relate to what I feel. I'll make sure to do my part as well to continue striving for the better with the help of everyone around me.
Exactly, Miss Abalos. So the correct answer for this situation depends on your relationship with other people. You know that sometimes we want to talk to ourselves alone, but sometimes we need to talk to other people, especially in our low moments in life. It can be your friends, your family, or even a counselor. It depends on your relationship and your comfort when you are around them. So let's have situation number 3. So Matthew and his girlfriend have a misunderstanding in their relationship. Cheryl, his girl best friend, wanted to know the problem, hoping she could comfort Matthew by any means. However, Matthew didn't let Cheryl know their problem. because he believed that when misunderstandings happen in a relationship, you must not talk first with others, but rather with your partner. If you were Matthew, would you do the same? Why? Okay, let's have Miss Benefe.
Yes, I would do the same thing as Matthew since talk about relationship should be private between the involved couple. Why? It's because if more people gets involved in that, it would be a total chaos. First, because biases will unintentionally be add up if you talk with someone, especially if you are close to them, they'll be siding with you and instigate you more instead of help you, particularly if they have malicious intent of breaking up your relationship with your girlfriend. Second and last is a couple is consists of only two persons. You should get things done and solve it with your girlfriend since in the first place the two of you were the one you have misunderstanding, not Cheryl and Matthew and his girlfriend, only Matthew and his girlfriend.
A wonderful answer from Miss Benefit. So exactly, of course, it is right that when misunderstandings happen in a relationship, it is good and appropriate that the two people involved in a relationship must communicate first before communicating with other people. And you know that this is also known as privacy in a relationship. So I'm glad that many of you had participated. And all of these situations have something to do with our first lesson today. So let's dive into the first topic, which is the levels of communication. So what are the goals in discussing our first lesson? So first, the goal is for you students to be able to understand and differentiate the different levels of communication. And the second is for you to be able to choose what level of communication is appropriate for every given situation. So the first level we have in communication is the intrapersonal level. So take note that the prefix intra means within. So when we say intrapersonal level of communication, it simply means a communication within yourself. So interpersonal level of communication refers to communication that centers on one person where the speaker acts both as the sender and the receiver of a message. So according to Hybels and Weaver, the message is made up of your thoughts and feelings. The channel is your brain, which processes what you are thinking and feeling. There is feedback in the sense that as you talk to yourself, you discard certain ideas and replace them with others. So you may be surprised to know that even thinking, writing notes to remind yourself, making decisions, and talking to yourself in front of a mirror are all examples of interpersonal level of communication. So interpersonal level of communication simply means you are the sender and the receiver of a message. So when we say a sender, it means you are the one who sends a message. And when we say a receiver, it means you are the one who receives a message. So the channel or medium wherein communication takes place in this level of communication is inside your head, and the feedback or response will come from you as well. So in this level of communication, you communicate with yourself alone and not with other people. So some examples of interpersonal level of communication are the following. So first, you are calming yourself before your presentation. You are meditating a book. You are making decision if you will listen to your online class or scroll on Facebook. And last, you are planning on how to finish all of your activities in a short amount of time. So as you can see in each examples we have here, the only person involved in this level of communication is one, and that person is you yourself alone, because this is what interpersonal level of communication is all about. It is a communication with yourself. So here are some photos that are all examples of interpersonal level of communication. And the second level of communication we have here is the interpersonal level. But let us first define the prefix inter. So when we say inter, it means between. So interpersonal level of communication simply means a communication between people or individuals. So this level of communication is a communication between people whose lives mutually influence one another. So interpersonal communication builds, maintains, and ends our relationships. And we spend more time engaged in interpersonal communication than the other forms of communication. So this level of communication, which is the interpersonal level, occurs between individuals whose lives influence one another in some aspects. So people use this level of communication whenever they want to build a relationship with other people. For example, a communication with a stranger because you wanted to know each other. So you communicate to build a relationship. And this is also used to maintain a relationship. It can be a relationship you need to maintain with your family, classmates, friends, or neighbors. And lastly, this level of communication is used even to end a relationship, such as breaking up with another person. So basically, when we say interpersonal level of communication, it simply means a communication between people or individuals. You are no longer talking to yourself, but rather you are talking to someone or somebody. So there are two types of interpersonal level of communication. The first type is dyadic or dyad communication. But let us first define the word dyad. So dyad is a term used in sociology which means a pair or two. So dyadic communication simply means a communication that occurs between two individuals. It can be a communication between a mother and a child, a teacher and a student, or a husband and a wife. So for example, you offered feedback on the speech performance of your classmate. You provided comfort to a friend who was feeling down. So as you can see in the given examples, the participants involved in this level of communication are only two because this is what dyadic communication is all about, a communication between two individuals. So these photos are examples of dyadic communication. There are only two persons involved in this level of communication. The second type of interpersonal level of communication is the small group. So small group refers to communication that involves at least 3 but not more than 12 people engaging in face-to-face interaction to achieve a desired goal. So in this level of communication, all participants can freely share ideas in a loose and open discussion. So this level of communication is usually used in an organization or groupings in school. The sender and the receiver of a message in small group communication are all of its members. We always do this in groupings. In our school, we conduct a meeting to discuss what we need to do, and we communicate with each other as a group. And we need to remember that in groupings or in an organization, the appropriate communication that we must use is this level of communication, which is the small group communication. So, for example, you are participating in an organizational meeting which aims to address the concerns of your fellow students. And last, you are having a discussion with your groupmates on how to finish the assigned task. So as you can see, in each examples we have, the participants involved in this level of communication is many. Because this is what small group communication is all about. It is a communication as a group, which means more than two individuals are engaging in communication or conversation. So to summarize, we have discussed two levels of communication. First, the intrapersonal level of communication. The next is the interpersonal level of communication. And under this level of communication, we have the dyadic communication and the small group communication. So this is the end of my report, and let's listen to the next presenter or reporter, Miss Christine Joy Fausto.
Let's move on to the third level of communication, which is the public communication. According to Hybels and Weaver 2012, this type refers to the communication that requires you to deliver or send the message before or in front of a group. The message can be driven by informational or persuasive purposes. In communication, unlike in interpersonal and small groups, the channels are more exaggerated. The voice is louder and the gestures are more expansive because the audience is bigger. The speaker might use additional visual channels such as slides or a PowerPoint presentation. In public communication, individuals and groups engage in delivering the message to a specific group of audience. This communication process aims to give information or persuade the listeners or the viewers. It is a sender focused form of communication, making the speaker the one responsible for conveying the information and message to the public. Examples of public communication are when you deliver a graduation speech to your batch or when you participate in a declamation, oratorical, or debate contest, watched by a number of people. Another examples of public communication includes seminars, press conferences, and political campaigns. So, as you can see, the pictures flashed on the screen are examples of public communication. You can see the speaker or the source of information actively disseminating the message to their audience. Moving on to the fourth and last level of communication, we have the mass communication. This refers to the communication that takes place through television, radio, newspapers, magazines, books, billboards, internet, and other types of media. Examples are when you are a student journalist, articulating your stand on current issues through the school newspapers. In mass communication, the message is delivered to the audience of a large population through the use of different mediums. It may be through cables and satellites that the use of technologies plays a huge part in informing the people. Its purpose is to easily disseminate information to a large number of people through the use of mass media. Now, let me discuss the types of media communication. First is we have the print media. Its examples are newspapers, magazines, books, novels, comics, and journals. To give you some information, print media in mass communication is one of the oldest and basic forms of mass communication. Information is transmitted through physical objects such as the use of papers with the help of printed publications. Moving on, we have the broadcast media that includes films, televisions, and radio. Broadcast media uses mediums like signals and satellites. It is an electronic way of sending information that people could access, watch, or listen to it through electronic devices such as televisions, radios, and smartphones. The third type of media communication is the transit media. Some examples are billboards, boardings, posters, and banners. It displays advertisements placed in, on, or around modes of public transportations like buses, taxis, trains, and sometimes subway stations. It enables the delivery of message in a innovative method which also geotargeting the target audience. The last type is the digital media. The word media applies to many things in the 21st century, from mass media to the news media and to the traditional media, to the many emerging forms of digital media. Digital media is information shared through a digital device or screen. Essentially, it's any form of media that relies on an electronic device for its creation, distribution, viewing, and storage. Digital media can be created, viewed, distributed, modified, listened to, and preserved on a digital or electronic device. As we can see on the screen, we have an example of print media, which is the newspaper, the broadcast media, which is the news, and we have the Facebook, a social media platform. These pictures are examples of what we call the mass communication. So, to sum it up, there are five levels of communication, which are the intrapersonal or the communication with oneself, the interpersonal or the communication with other people, and under this level of communication, we have the dyad communication, which is the communication between two people, and the small group or the communication of people within a certain group or organization. We also have the public communication, which refers to the communication of an individual with a massive audience. And lastly, is the mass communication or communication with the use of print materials and electronic devices. Now, let me call on Miss Almario for the icebreaker.
Good day everyone, my name is Yasril Almaria and I am the third reporter for today. And we're now moving on to the next topic. But before that, we prepare an icebreaker for you to be able to engage in our topic and also to test if you have an idea about the principle of communication. So we prepare three questions from this part. So let's start. The first question is, what why do you think clarity is important in communication? Yes, Miss Denali, you have an idea.
There are multiple reasons why clarity in communication is important. It is the responsibility of the sender to appropriately transmit their message and to be clear about their intent, so that the receiver can correctly interpret its meaning. Clarity provides direction and is essential to having a meaningful and productive conversation. Lack of clarity and failing to imply this in communicating can lead to misunderstandings, conflicts, and disagreements.
Thank you for your idea, Miss Nanale, and I really agree to you. Clarity is really essential for us to have a meaningful conversation. So moving on for the next question, we have here, have you already experienced being badly treated while you are communicating with another person? And how does it feel? Yes, Miss Santos, we would like to hear your voice.
Have you already experienced being badly treated while communicating with another person, and how does it feel? Yes, I have already experienced being badly treated while communicating with another person, and I felt really bad because I wasn't receiving the same energy that I was giving. One tip that I could give is treat another person on how you wanted to be treated. If you communicate with another person really badly and they gave you the same energy that you are giving, misunderstanding and anger buildup might happen between the two of you.
Yes, we really feel that if we are badly treated. But I love the tip that you gave and I hope everyone will do it. Now, from the last question, why is being courteous is important when engaging in communication? And we have Mr. Legaspi that would like to share his idea.
Because being courteous in communication means we consider the viewpoint of others and the feelings of the people who we are talking to. And we also show respect by maintaining eye contact and by speaking politely to those who are receiving our message, which builds trust and makes the people we are talking to feel welcomed and included in the communication process.
Thank you for that, Mr. Legaspi. And as I listen, I really see that all of you have a correct answer in our icebreaker. And you have an idea about our topic. So, good job and thank you for your participation. So moving on, let us discuss the principles of communication, and here are the goals in discussing those principles. So firstly, for you to be able to understand more the seven principles of communication, and the second, also you will be able to apply the seven C's in all the levels of communication that was tackled a minute ago. So the principles of communication, the seven C's of communication, is a list of principles that you should ensure all of your communications adhere to. So their purpose is to help ensure that the person you're communicating with hears what you're trying to say. So every day we communicate, whether it is at school, work, or in our personal lives. So certainly we interact with a variety of individuals. It could be on reporting, just like what I'm doing right now, also face-to-face, letters, or in meetings. So these principles that I will be discussing will help you having an effective communication, especially we all know that miscommunication really does exist, and for that one to be prevented, let's elaborate those seven C's. So completeness. Complete communication is essential to the quality of communication process in general. Hence, communication should include everything that the receiver needs to hear for him or her to respond, react, or evaluate properly. So, as you can see, first is we have completeness in principles of communication. So it says that to be an effective communicator, you have to observe completeness in any conversation. So you have to make sure that the information you're providing with the receiver is relevant to your goals or to your purpose. So it should be connected to them. It should be relates. It relates into your topic. So avoiding thoughts or examples that are not related to your topic is really good because you shouldn't wander too far from your subject. It can lead to confusion if you do so. So next is we have conciseness. So conciseness does not mean keeping the message short, but making it direct or straight to the point. So insignificant or redundant information should be eliminated from the communication that will be sent to the recipient. So uh, as you can see, we have also conciseness. It must be direct. You must be certain that your message is brief, but it is still on point. So if you use unnecessary words or spin your message around too much, the audience will become busy. So it says that being concise is really valuable in communication because it makes you more entertaining and more understandable. So next is we have consideration. So it says in the PowerPoint that to be effective, the speaker should always consider relevant information about his or her receiver, such as mood, background, race, preference, education, status, and needs, among others. So by doing so, he or she can easily build rapport with the audience. So this third principle, it implies that in order to have an effective communication, putting yourself or putting your feet to the shoes of the audience is a must skill because we must take the audience into consideration. So, for example, their thoughts, the feelings, the attitudes, their wants, their situations, and likely as a speaker, we should reflect what will be their reactions to our speech or in our message. So to interact, it is really important that the sender must be connected, involved, and understand the intended receiver. So the fourth one is we have concreteness. So effective communication happens when the message is concrete and supported by facts, figures, and real-life examples and situations. So in this case, the receiver is more connected to the message conveyed. It says that uh, the message should be precise and specifically worded so that there is no possibility for
misinterpretation or miscommunication. So being concrete means it is tangible, there are evidence. It should include all the relevant facts in order to support the message. So as a speaker, the content of your speech should always confidently a truth. So if ever we are the speaker, we must support our message with a fact because audiences will know if you are just bluffing or just deceiving them. So we must avoid sharing false information and be sure that what are you sharing is reliable and credible. And since I say the word fact or reliable, I guess you are wondering if where are we coming? So or where is our sources? So our sources is in the end of the presentation. If you guys want to read it again and again, you can visit it. So that's all from my part. May I call on Miss Luzon for the continuation?
Moving on to the next principle of communication, we have courtesy. The speaker shows courtesy and communication by respecting the culture, values, and belief of her receivers. Being courteous at all times create a positive impact on the audience. Basically, it's all about respect, isn't it? When we are communicating, we also consider the feelings of our receiver because we know that every one of us has this individual differences when it comes to culture, the values and beliefs. That is why as communicator, it is really important to consider respect, and by being respectful toward to our audience, create a positive impact not only to the audience but also to the totality of the communication itself. And moving on to the next, we have clearness. Clearness in communication implies the use of simple and specific words to express ideas. It is also achieved when the speaker focuses only on a single objective in her speech so as not to confuse the audience. Of course, to be effective in communication, we have to consider also clearness by simply using simple and specific words. Being simple and specific makes the audience understand the information, isn't it? Why do we need to use complex word if the audience didn't understand or grasp something on the information that the communicator is trying to convey? That is why it's still better to use simple and specific, yet the audience understand it fully, isn't it? Also, by focusing to single objectives helps the audience points out about the information, as also help for the audience not to confuse about the information. So we have the last principle of communication, which is the correctness. It is essential that both the factual information and the language and grammar you use are correct. If your audience spot errors in either, they will be distracted and your credibility will be greatly reduced. This will reduce the effectiveness of your communication. Simply being accurate with the information, because being accurate with the information helps the receiver or the audience understand easily what the communicator is trying to convey or imply. Also, consider the language and the grammar. When it comes to grammar, consider the punctuation, the spelling, and others, because if there were misspelled words, grammatical errors, that would cause confusion to the audience, and also that would cause or affect your credibility or effectivity as communicator. That is why it's really important to consider correctness, consider a factual information, and always have check the grammars, the language, so that you will be effective. To sum up, we have the 7 C's of communication that every communicator should ensure when communicating. These are the completeness, conciseness, consideration, concreteness, courtesy, clearness, and correction. So, I hope that the 7 principle of communication is clear with you. To relate, we have here quotation from Plato. Communicate unto other person that which you would want him to communicate unto you if your position were reversed. As communicator, isn't it, we don't just communicate but also we consider the feelings of our receiver or audience as if we were on their position. And also as communicator, we don't just see ourselves as communicator but also as receiver. The fact that we consider ourselves or the emotion process is vice versa. As if you wanted to be heard, listen, and if you wanted to listen,
To share my insights, I have learned in our discussion today that in communication we should choose the appropriate level for every given situation. For example, if we have a groupings, we need to have a conversation or communication as a group. And if we have a misunderstanding with our partner or friend, of course, the first thing we need to have communication is first with them. We need to have a communication first to those persons who are involved in misunderstanding rather than talking it first with other people. And I also learned that we should consider the receiver every time we communicate, especially using the 7 C's to have a better and good conversation.
So here is my insights about our topic, and I'd like to start with not everyone starts out very well. We're not that good at the very beginning, and likely some of you still stutter when talking. So I believe that's the importance of the principles. It is its importance is to help us in everyday interaction. We are on our way to becoming fluent English speakers, and all we need to do is to make an effort and believe in ourselves. And of course, to memorize or to bring those principles in our minds. So remember that we're in a university, and a university is a setting where students can enhance their knowledge and skills. No one is really good right away, so we can be fluent and excellent in public speaking someday or in time.
For my insights about our topics, which are the different levels of communication and the principles of communication, I would like to share that to be able to have an effective communication, the speakers in a communication process must always ensure the context and the quality of the message to be sent. The information is the highlight of the communication. That's why it needs to be relevant, based on facts, and easy to understand.
knowing and understanding the levels and principle of communication would help us to be good speaker, especially nowadays that we are more on the partings and we are studying the language. So this will serve as our guide to be good in speaking and also boost our confidence as well as to enhance our communication skills, especially sooner we will be on the field to teaching. This will really help us in our teaching career.